Alright, we're just going to make a quick video on adding and subtracting polynomials. First of all, what's a polynomial? And the easiest way to explain it is it's a collection of terms separated by addition or subtraction symbols. So essentially, if you have numbers and variables, you guys been working with, honestly, if you've been in algebra, with polynomials pretty much daily. It just wasn't called a polynomial. So when you see a collection of terms and they're separated by addition and subtraction signs, we generically will call them a polynomial. So then there may be some terms you may hear say, especially in my classes as we move forward, because we will be getting into multiplying and dividing polynomials. We will have these terms called a monomial. So what is a monomial? So mono is the prefix, which stands for one. So a monomial is just one term. So you'll have a polynomial that is just one term. Then you have a binomial, which is the bi is the prefix for two, so two terms. Tri is the prefix for three. And then they become less fancy. At this point, generally math teachers will generically go to just polynomial. There are names for 4 terms, 5 terms, 6 terms. If you want to look them up because you're interested, go ahead. But generally this thing, once you have more than 4 terms in math class, you will hear the word polynomial used quite frequently. All right, so that's just some background behind what a polynomial is and what we're going to do with them. So let's talk about adding and subtracting these polynomials. So when adding polynomials, okay, so you'll have a polynomial and then you'll plus another polynomial. Usually what we'll do is we'll put the first polynomial in parentheses and you'll add to it the second polynomial, because if you don't put them in parentheses, then it just looks like one big long polynomial sentence in which you're asking to combine like terms. And essentially what you need to know, a polynomial, and you're adding 2 polynomials together, okay, you are essentially just going to be combining like terms, okay? And it has everything to do with the idea of the distributive property, and I'll explain that when we get to the example. Polynomial minus a polynomial, so the second example here, all right, so down here, is subtraction. So the important first step here is going to be to take this negative and make sure you distribute it. Now, just remember that it is a -1 here, okay? So you're distributing a -1. So when you're subtracting polynomials, whenever you put a subtraction sign in the front side of a group, all right, when you're reading from left to right, you must distribute the negative into the entire group. Okay, so that's the most important part. And then after that, what we will do is we'll go ahead and combine like terms. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple examples here. All right, so my examples are, I have 1 subtraction and 1 addition. So the whole point here is I just want to point out to you that they're all literally done the same exact way. It doesn't matter how many terms are in each group. What you need to remember is that when you're subtracting, the most important first step is going to be the distributive property. And when you're adding, you kind of really can ignore the parentheses altogether, and you can just go ahead and start adding like terms. So here we go. So I'll show this to you what I kind of do. So the first thing here will be to distribute this -1. So I will take this -1 and I will distribute it amongst all 3 terms. Okay, if there were 4 terms, I would distribute to 4. If there are 2, I would distribute it to 2. So here we go. So let's go ahead and get that answer. So the first group has a +1 in front of it. Well, by rule, anything multiplied by 1 is itself. So we can go ahead, all right, and once we distribute this negative, we can go ahead and we can drop these grouping symbols on the first group. So this is 2n minus 4. And then we distribute the -1. So -1 times +3 is -3n squared. -1 times +5n is going to be a -5n. And -1 times -6 is a +6. And now at this point, it's just a matter of locating what a like term is. And remember from previous classes, or if your teacher talked about it, a like term will be same variable, same exponent. So the coefficient doesn't matter because the coefficient is what we're going to use to actually do the mathematics of addition or subtraction. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to underline like terms. So I have a 2n and I have a -5n. So 2 minus 5 is going to be, okay, in this case, is going to be a -3n. So I'm going to go ahead and write my answer up over here. And then the next thing I'm going to look for is things that other variables that are the same. So now I notice I have a -3n squared. There's no other ones. So that's just going to be -3n squared, no combining there. And then what I'm left with is what we call constants. Now all constants are considered like terms. So I have -4 plus 6, and -4 plus 6 is going to be a +2. Now, just in case you're watching this video and you're not from my class, right now I am not emphasizing on putting something in what we call standard form. Standard form is just rearranging all of these, okay, so to make it so that the highest exponent and variable goes first. So standard form would be writing this term first because it has the highest exponent. So you would just write it with exponents going in order from least to greatest. Sorry about that there. Minus, then this has a 1, so negative 3n to the first, so 3n. And then this has none, so this is plus 2. So for me, for my classes, I'm okay with this for right now. The goal is just adding subtraction. But in case you're in another class where they're stressing both things, okay, the difference between the two is that this is what we call standard form. All right, on to the next example. So next example is going to be addition. So addition is kind of nice because they both have a positive 1. Now, some teachers may ask you to show dropping your parentheses, but I want you to know in this case, adding, okay, adding since you're distributing a 1, okay, you can do two things. Positive 1 doesn't do anything. Multiplying by 1 just keeps it the same. So what I can do here, all right, is I can either do this without even having the 1s involved, okay, and I can just look for like terms and add them across, or you can go ahead and distribute that, and you can have the 7x to the 4th and basically drop the parentheses if you want to distribute a positive 1. But when you're adding, you don't need to do anything with this. You're literally just going to go directly to combining like terms. So here we go. So 7x to the 4th, I'm looking across and I don't see another single x to the 4th power. So this is going to be 7x to the 4th. And then I just go directly to my next term, and my next term here is a negative x squared. So just don't forget it's negative 1x squared. And I go over here and I look at across. Okay, I found a 5x squared. So negative x squared plus 5x squared is a positive 4x squared. And then the next thing I move to, okay, is I see I have an x, so I'm done with this one. I'm done and I'm done. So general practice, you'll see a lot of people do is they'll cross them off. And go to the next one, I've got a 2x. And then I move across and I've got another positive 7x. And I look over here and I go, oh, plus 6x and there's a 3. So I can't combine that with the 2 and the 7. So positive 2 and positive 7 make positive 9x. And then my last but not least, I cross them off. And last but not least, I'm left with this positive 6x cubed. Okay, so now this is not in standard form. This is just you've completed the task of adding the two polynomials together. But if your teacher wanted standard form, what you would do is you'd put it in order from greatest exponent to least. So this goes 4, then 3, then 2, then 1, and then I'm done. So I'm going to write it in that order. So this would be the first one in my group. This would be the second in my group. This would be the third, and then this would be the fourth in my group in terms of spots. So 7x to the 4th plus 6x cubed plus 4x squared plus 9x. So notice that I just put them in order from first, second, third to fourth, and then you're done. So that's it. That's how you add and you subtract them. So I hope that helps. If you want more examples, let me know. I'm happy to provide them, but that's it.